turn this into a 4-day weekend.
Any proper Guamanian, you're like, you want to go to the beach? Don't have to ask me twice. Where do I sign up?
Right on. 7-Eleven. Hey, it's The Link, brought to you by Pacific Points. Jack in the Box, ITD and Cabo Enterprises. Tuesday, July 6th, not Monday, guys. And let's head into the K-Wave News Zoom room where she's still wearing two hats. DYA CPS Director Melanie Brennan joins us. Good morning, Melanie.
Good morning, Chris. Good morning, Sabrina.
Good morning.
Well, back to work.
That's right.
I know a lot of us were thrown off by this 3-day weekend, and I know you got a big update for us with the DYA CPS, so we'll go ahead and let you start there, Melanie. What's going on with your agencies?
So I think that the last time we spoke, there were about 700 cases that were backlogged that we had closed off. I'm happy to report today there are 768 cases that were properly addressed and closed. The remaining 150 plus are still on our current social workers caseloads and investigations and in case management. We continue to manage those as well as manage the new incoming referrals. Since we last spoke, we hired an additional 3 social workers, and we are still pending 2 that are coming in, should be within 2 weeks' time, as well as a PC3 and an administrative aide. So things are looking up in terms of recruitment, but unfortunately, like I said, the turnover rate is always going to be high because of the nature of the work at CPS. And in the last 3 weeks, we also lost a social worker to GDOE and 2 to retirement. Not social workers, but the 2 to retirement one was a social services supervisor 1 and a PC4.
Well, there was something that we talked about the last time you were on, and I believe it was incentive pay for your employees to hopefully, keep them on board and also recruit. What's the status of the incentive pay issue?
So I did draft a policy that is still with DOA. This administration, the governor is in support of incentive pay, differential pay for social workers in child welfare. And so, as with any policy, it has to be carefully scrutinized, and it's still in the process, but it does look good. And so we're waiting on that as well. We're also, bringing in new training and development for staff. Part of that onboarding is to make sure that the newly recruited social workers have the proper training under their belt, so they're not in over their heads. And so we've got some of the new social workers trained in FETI, that's forensic experiential trauma interviews. And what that does, it properly prepares them to speak with children who have been through very, very traumatic events, and to properly interview them so that we're not causing more harm by them having to repeat their trauma.
You were mentioning these new referrals. Just on average, how many new referrals do you guys get on a weekly basis?
So again, like I explained, when school is open and there's face-to-face contact, traditionally that is where we get the bulk of our referrals. Since the pandemic started, obviously, we got less referrals, but referrals still came in through the community. This year we saw a little bit more, but still there wasn't that total face-to-face contact with the school. So they remain about the same as last year in terms of incoming referrals. But I will say that the referrals that we do receive, they are being addressed immediately. And so there is no backlog. The referrals that we received, I would say that, 2020 and 2021, similar numbers. We average anywhere from 3 to 10 referrals a day.
Are any of them like repeat referrals?
Many of the referrals are repeat referrals. And again, it's so important that we act on every referral because even if it doesn't meet the criteria of maltreatment, we want to ensure that our families receive services and that the kids involved in these referrals are properly monitored so that these situations don't elevate to maltreatment.
That kind of is concerning about the repeat referrals. It's like a cycle, that of abuse, I guess you could say, that just, I don't know what it is that needs to be done, and maybe you have some suggestions to stop seeing these.
Well, again, prevention is the key. And so we want to, especially in these situations where families just need support. Families need to know what the resources are in the communities. I mean, for example, we get a lot of referrals on failure to immunize children, right? And there's free services. And so it's a matter of making contact with the family and ensuring that they understand that immunizations are free, like you can get them. It's a matter of scheduling and where to go. Like we get referrals on teen pregnancy, right? And that doesn't necessarily constitute maltreatment, but you want to ensure that the youth, the teen who is pregnant, is supported and does receive prenatal care.
Is this going to be kind of a permanent thing where DYA is permanently going to be taking over CPS? Because you've been at this for a while and making, significant progress.
Well, child abuse and maltreatment is a very complex issue, and it's not germane just to Guam. It's all over the place, and you can see how other jurisdictions are struggling or have struggled with their child welfare system. There's a lot of reform efforts. DYA, Department of Youth Affairs, is really concerned because, again, we see a lot of kids involved in the child welfare system. They're dually involved. They sometimes cross over to the juvenile justice system. And so obviously it's a very huge concern, and we will stay in collaboration. We're not necessarily going to always be handling referrals. Our job was really to address the backlog and to help fortify CPS with our workers until we can recruit the needed bodies, the warm bodies into CPS. So yes, we kind of knew at the forefront, Sabrina, that we would be there for a while because the turnover rate is constantly putting CPS in turmoil. And so our warm bodies have helped address the backlog, but continue to case manage. And so like a lot of these cases are so complex, you can't just like solve them in a week. You get the referral and you solve it. It's a lot of hand-holding. It's a lot of follow-up to ensure that services are provided to the families and to the children, and to ensure that the children are no longer in harm's way. It is a difficult job, and so one of the recommendations that we're making is to always be like a backup. If there is again, we anticipate with the opening of schools and the face-to-face contact, we're going to see a surge in referrals. And when schools are open, that's when DYA sees kind of a decline in the caseload in the population at the youth correctional facility. And so we always want to be available to assist in these circumstances. And so that's, one of the recommendations, that you have this cadre of social workers that are at the ready to assist and are trained to assist. And so, yes, we're definitely partners for life.
Melanie, I wanted to ask about, so I know you're trying to get social workers, but every other agency that we get on here is talking about how they're trying to get social workers too, right? So,
yeah, so it's always a struggle. We're working very closely with the University of Guam. In fact, a couple of our new social workers are the recent graduates. And so you always want to have that process where it's so streamlined, where you don't have to wait for an announcement, So what we've done with, the Department of Administration has really helped us. And what they're doing with the social work positions is they're keeping those announcements open. So anytime you have a graduate, anytime you have somebody who's interested in moving from agency to agency, all they have to do is submit their application and it's vetted. And so if there is a position open, we have this list that will be available to us. It's a constant struggle.
Yeah.
Ever since I started coming on, I've told you, it's like, as soon as we select, half of them say, well, no, thank you, I'm going to try somewhere else. And if they have the luxury to do that, they can. But at the same time, Chris and Sabrina, we want to make sure that we're not just hiring any social worker. We want to make sure that, we're really scrutinizing their application and making sure that, that they're in it for the long haul as much as possible. Because I think I've explained this to you. Studies have shown that families and kids that have had the same caseworker, they're not constantly in transition, right? their outcomes are much better, and they're with child welfare for less time. So you want to have that relationship built from the get-go, and that's really important. So at the same time, we're not just like, okay, everybody who wants a job, come to CPS. It's like we really need people that are dedicated and committed to child welfare and to improving outcomes for youth and families.
What's the update on the foster parent situation?
So the foster care situation kind of remains stable. We're always going to need new foster parents. We're always going to need foster homes. And remember, it's supposed to be temporary. And the kids that come into foster care are kids that, like the first thing that the social worker does when they're contemplating exerting or taking custody of children is they're going to look at relative placement first, right? We don't want to cause more harm. And so we want to keep kids in families that they're familiar with. And so we're always going to try and exhaust relative placement, kinship placement, fictive kinship placement, which is, friends of the family that are interested in just caring for children temporarily until we stabilize the family. Foster care with foster parents that are unknown to the children, that is our last resort. And remember, the goal is always reunification. Only in instances, and it happens very infrequently, is a mother coming into CPS and saying, I just can't raise my baby and I would like to give my child up for adoption. So very few of those types of situations occur. And when they do occur, usually the mother has somebody in mind to adopt. Either it's a family friend or a relative or the grandparents. So very, very few kids come in under the safe haven law.
I wanted to ask, since we're on the subject of the foster parents, there was that bills 108, 109, and I'm pretty sure you followed the evolution of this issue. I know in April, I think you testified, and then so had Terry Uggan, but more recently, Terry had kind of put in writing a couple pages of concerns that he had with the measures, but then the governor came out and said, oh, nope, disregard, we support it. All the way. Has there been any change of heart in what you initially testified about the bill, Melanie?
Well, so the intent of both bills, 10836 and 10936, honestly, the intention is to assist CPS. So, why wouldn't we be for it? There were concerns, though, about, who would be able to, for example, in Bill 108-36, that really was the intent of that law was really focused on amending the current adoption rules and regulations, right? And so we acknowledge that, that they do need to be updated, and we do need to consider like adoption agencies assisting us with placement of safe haven children. So we recognize that the bill's intent, and we do wish to work with adoption agencies. We wish to work with the Senator Mary Torres in amending the bill to make it work for all of us and to ensure the safety of our children.
So you think they're...
Bill 109 was basically amendments to the Safe Haven Act.
Right. So you say you want to see some amendments to address the concerns that
I'm sorry, it's really low on my side for some reason today.
You're saying, sorry. So you're saying that
maybe it was a long weekend and I was listening to music. Really
too loud. Music. I think we all were. So you're basically saying you have concerns and you think they could be addressed through amending of the bill.
Oh yes, definitely. Okay. And the legislature is willing to work with those concerns, and they're valid concerns.
Okay, thank you. 7:25 now. Melanie, Bree, did you have anything else?
No.
Okay.
So just the update on our DYA Summer Youth Employment and Internship Program, just an overwhelming interest in it. I believe that we had over 870 applicants, that wanted to join, and some of them were ineligible, but we managed to place like over 675 kids. And so really, really proud of our work with Guam Department of Education and all the partnering agencies, and so happy that parents who allowed their children to become involved in this were able to manage their workload and driving their kids if they had to, just supporting their kids in that way.
Yeah, it's cool. It reminds me, we keep saying this, of the old AHRD summer job program. Jay? I think I worked in I want to say it was Senator Carlotta's office for the summer jobs. How about you?
Well, my summer jobs was I was never lucky enough to work in Gov Guam, but when my dad was at DFS, they had what they called like the Job Squad program. So children of any of the employees, got to work, and so we worked in the warehouse and we tagged merchandise and stuff like that.
Well, there you go. Well,
I had a bunch of cousins who did the AHRD, and they all loved it.
Go ahead, Melanie.
There?
I worked at the Attorney General's office 1 year, but most of the time it was at the carnivals. It wasn't a DYA summer program.
Right.
Pay red, pay red, pay red.
Hey, a day. Oh,
Were you the announcer?
Yeah, she was.
Nice.
We got to bring you on closer
can
to
you give us a
liberation.
little,
Yeah, give us a little sample.
No.
Come on, Mel. That'd be awesome. All bets down. All bets down.
All
The
bets
ball is
down.
strolling to the lucky
How
color.
many rollings do you do? Rolling.
I guess after doing it for like 4 hours a night, it just becomes, like it's muscle memory after that point, right?
Thanks, Melanie.
All right.
Maybe
You're
next
very
time.
welcome. Thank you too.
Next time you come back on, you got to do the ball is rolling, strolling.
All right, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
She's like, oh, no, you don't.
Pay red, pay
I missed that.
red.
Yeah. Those are good times, man.
Ball is rolling.
Rolling to the lucky color of... Take Chris's money because he never wins.
You know what's funny though, because I've been up to Rhoda and I've been up to Saipan when they do their like Beto Beto thing, and they say it in a completely different way. They always say shoot, like for some reason, like when you put then instead of all bets down, they're like all right, and it's red and it's green and it's purple and shoot. And it's like no all bets down. It's like all right, everybody, hands off the table.
Hands off the table.
I wonder if Mayor Alec ever did like the.
He seems like he would have.
He's here now.
He is, yeah.
Okay. Good morning, Mayor. We were just talking with Melanie Brennan of DYA and CPS, and she said in one of her past summer jobs, she was actually the
Caller.
Beto Beto girl.
Yeah. She was a caller for Pay Red.
So we weren't here on Guam for too long during those years of mine. So, but when we visited, we played.
Right. Mayor Alec.
It didn't work, but we played.
He's here. We do a weekly update with the Mayor's Council. And Mayor, we're going to take a quick break and come back with Mayor Jesse Alec, the president of the Mayor's Council of Guam, next, right here on the link. Good morning.
Do you feel like you're missing out on something? Make life more rewarding with Pacific Points.